Hello, this is for field number 2. So our sample is from field number 2. Same with our materials as from field number 1. We have our distilled water, all of our sensors, we have our pipette, we have our soil profile that has been sitting for over 24 hours. It's been sitting for 48 hours. This is what our dry soil looks like in our bag where we took our sample from. So once again, this is from field number 2. We're going to begin with testing the pH of this. So as with the last one, I have filled our soil to that first soil fill line with our spoon. Next, what I'm going to do is take our distilled water and I'm going to fill to that second fill line. Taking that distilled water to that second fill line. I'm going to drop all of the substance, that pH substance and sensor powder, all the way into that test chamber. I'm going to close up my sensor, my tube, and shake. I'm shaking this for about a minute. What we can see here is that this will change the pH. So on this sensor, there is a pH chart. Goes from about 4.5 to 7.5, where we are going to be able to see what that pH is all about. As I finish shaking this, we're going to let this sit for 1 minute, for about 1 minute, and then we're going to see that soil pH. As we wait, I'm going to show you after 48 hours, this is what field number 2's soil profile looks like. So we can see really well that organic matter floating on top of the water. The clay suspended in that water, we can see that murky water, and then at the bottom, we can see those layers. So we can actually see pretty well in this one that we have that bottom layer, and there's 2 tiny layers on top. So we've let this sit for 48 hours because it is a soil that has a little bit more clay, so it needed more time for it to separate and settle. I'm gonna shake my pH test one more time, and we can see that it's starting to test the pH. I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit longer and begin to fill up all of our tests. We're gonna start with nitrogen. Same with this, nitrogen, filling to that fill line. I'm going to place that down and fill our next one, phosphorus. We'll test for phosphorus on all of these little boxes. It does show us the level of phosphorus that is in that soil profile. For nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, or potash, we can see that there are 4 different levels. There is a surplus in each, sufficient, adequate, deficient, and depleted. So when we're testing our soils, we want to make sure that we're falling within that adequate and sufficient range. If we have a surplus, we don't want that. We also don't want depleted or deficient because our plants won't be able to grow effectively and efficiently. We're going to start with our nitrogen. I'm going to take our capsule and I'm going to pour it into the test chamber for our nitrogen. Cap our substance. And I'm going to let it be for 1 moment and then I will shake all of these at the end. I'm going to do the same thing for phosphorus. This is that blue capsule. Going to pour into that test chamber. Place the lid onto our phosphorus sensor. And finish out with the potassium. This is the orange sensor. I'll let this, put the lid back on. And I'm going to shake these. I'm going to shake these a good amount just so that all of that sensor we can see is going to be fully throughout that liquid, that soil liquid. And it's going to tell us about the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, that potash, what levels? We'll let these sit for 10 full minutes. 10 full minutes, and then we'll show a video and a picture of what it looks like. We can actually see now, so for soil profile 2, this is that pH test. So based on your discretion, you can, on slide number 7 for pH, you're gonna state and color in or highlight what color, what level pH that is. So we can see that it's kind of like a darker blue color, so we want to put that where we think it belongs on that scale. All right, hello everyone, it's been 10 minutes. For our nitrogen, this is what our nitrogen turned out to be. So you can find and coordinate and highlight which level it's going to be. N4 surplus, N3 sufficient, N2 adequate, N1 deficient, and NO depleted. So based on that, you can pause the video and you'll want to highlight on slide number 7. Next, phosphorus. Based on what we see here, is it P4 surplus, P3 sufficient, P2 adequate, P1 deficient, or P0 depleted? Potassium or potash. What do we see? K4 surplus, K3 sufficient, K2 adequate, K1 deficient, K0 depleted. And also just showing you, what do we see on the pH scale one more time? What is that pH? More alkaline, more acidic, what are we seeing? That was for soil sample number 2 from field number 2.